traversed the tombs of Naxxramas. We've climbed every cliff on Black Rock. Now the world cries out for heroes. As a new evil rises, there will be danger. There will be doom. There will be ancient temples filled with relics, treasures, and traps. Who will answer the call?
We will lead, explorers lead, and we are in need of explorers. Adventure we seek, cross land and sea. Won't you come and join us?
Yes!
Sick.
We've traversed the tombs of Naxxramas. We've climbed every cliff on Black Rock. Now the world cries out for heroes. As a new evil rises, there will be danger. There will be doom. There will be ancient temples filled with relics, treasures, and traps. Who will answer the call?
We will lead, explorers lead, and we are in need of explorers. Adventure we seek, cross land and sea. Won't you come and join us?
Yes!
All right, looks like we're live. Thanks for joining us, guys, and welcome to the StarLadder I-League tournament. We're on Redemption Week, Day 2. We're going to find out who's going to secure that last 6th spot in next month's tournament in Minsk. I'm Kriparian, joined here by Noxious. How you doing?
As usual, pretty good. We've got, as the second day is going to be the determining one. It's also the last day of the online portion. So the next time we'll see each other for that tournament, it'll be from the live event. We saw yesterday Cypher go through after everything. I mean, I feel like he was the underdog of the entire bracket. Yeah, from my perspective.
It seemed like a tough journey, but I mean, in the end, if you're at the top, you're at the top. It doesn't really matter.
It was pretty good. Today we've got, again, a total of 6 players going to be competing. We've got Hoej and Orange for the first match, Neria versus Stan Sivka for the second one, and then whoever wins the first one will play versus Jab, whoever wins the second one will play versus Life Coach, and then the winner of that, the winners of that will go forward for the finals of the day. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, this tournament started earlier this month where many more players had to play from the group stages. The players at the top of the group had already secured 4 out of the 6 spots in next month's tournament. And the players at the bottom of each group were eliminated, and all the players that you see before you there are those in the middle of the group, and they were given this extra chance to try to secure a few extra spots. Of course, Cypher securing that first spot yesterday, and one of our 6 players today will secure the second one. Who's your bet on, Noxious? Do you have any extra favor for some of these players? Maybe Life Coach, maybe Stan Sivka. Those guys have been a bit on fire in the last few months.
Yeah, I want to see Sivka take it just because of the he took the first one. So, I mean, the first of the events. So it would be a nice thing to see him at least get through to the LAN finals. Otherwise, I'd say maybe Life Coach. I think right now G2 is probably the strongest team in the scene as far as results go and consistency. I know that Sivka and Life Coach also playtest with one another, so I'd probably hedge my bets on either of these guys. But, if Sivka goes through, only
play against
one
each
of
other.
him or Life Coach exactly can go through. So it's going to be a little difficult maybe to figure out. I mean, I'm rooting for Life Coach or Sivka, but I don't know which one of them I prefer.
All right. Well, we're going to kick off the day here with Hoej versus Orange. 2 Scandinavian players that have done very well in the recent past as well. I'm kind of curious to see what kind of decks the players are bringing today. Just quickly glancing over the list, it seems very similar to yesterday, where there are a few of these players playing Paladin, but I believe the most dominant class once again is Druid. Now, reflecting on yesterday's experience, our reflections were a little bit different going into the final as they were after the final, as it seemed like Strifecrow's Priest deck was doing the best out of all the decks in the tournament, but it was what caused them to fall against Cypher in yesterday's final. Now,
I think he would have won if he had kept the Entomb and not played the Monkey, right? Like, I feel like to win the match, guaranteed, he may have decided... he might have been better off maybe just not to play the Golden Monkey, but we'll never get to replay that one.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think Strifecrow played that last game very well. I think it was in a game against the Druid where maybe he could have pulled out a win, but that would have been a completely different series because the matchups would have been different. So it's hard to say, and in the end, the results are what they are. But what do you think of so many players bringing Druid? It seems like it wasn't just on the first day. I believe it's on the second. I believe every player that we're going to see play today, except Orange, has brought Druid to this tournament. Like, Druid seems good, but it doesn't seem like dominant. Typically, the decks that you see players bringing to the tournament are either dominant in the tournament scene or dominant in the ladder scene. And I mean, I know I don't play ladder as much as some of these guys, but it seems like Druid is not really crushing ladder. It seems like Paladin's crushing ladder, and it seems that, at least in the very recent past, Druid hasn't really rolled over the tournament scene. I mean, it's definitely not a bad tournament class, but it seems one that's fairly based on just drawing a ramp in your opener, which, makes it a bit inconsistent compared to some of the other decks.
Yeah, I mean, I like the playing Druid just because your bad matchups, let's say you're looking at Zoo, you're looking at maybe Tempo Mage, those seem to be kind of the worst. They're not as present because Reno Lock is around, so if you can dodge that a little bit, it might be a good reason to bring Druid. Also, the fact that it's a Conquest format makes it so you're bound to get something you're going to beat. If you roll enough dice, eventually you'll get a Wild Growth, eventually you'll get an Innervate, and you'll win on the back of something like this. So it's a very good deck to bring in a format like Conquest, maybe less so in a Last Hero Standing, unless you're polarizing the way it's built. But I really like it in Conquest. However, what I really want to bring the attention to is maybe the Hunter from Stan Cifka. I feel like that's an interesting one because no one else has played it so far, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Hunter has kind of fallen off the tournament scene. I can't say it's a bad thing. I mean, I like...
Sure.
Well, Hunter on ladder is different than Hunter in tournaments. Hunter in tournaments, there definitely is typically a fairly skillful component to piloting the deck. But it just seems that with Hunter gone, there's a lot more control decks brought to tournaments. In fact, one difference from yesterday's lineup is that we are seeing a lot of players bringing Warrior in this side of the bracket. All right, well, our game has kicked off here. We will have a Druid versus Rogue matchup. This is one that's heavily reliant on whoever wants to win on getting a very good opening hand. It's it's always important to get a good opening hand, but it seems like the decks that we talk about being reliant on it have like a very large range of opening hands. If you're playing the Rogue, you could get like sprint and a 4-drop, and you're doing nothing that game. Whereas with the Druid, if you're not getting ramp, you're just getting mid-sized minions. It really might not work out at all. You might just get onto the board too slowly, and Druid's only comeback mechanic is to kill their opponent with a combo.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where both classes have access to the same broken tool. I guess that you could say Prep and Innervate are. If Rogue wants to do broken things, Rogue has to have Innervate. If Druid wants to make broken things happen, likewise, Wild Growth will ramp, but it's also a bit less bursty, I guess, in the way that you break the game.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
but it also gets countered by Sap a little bit.
Yeah, the Druid hand is much stronger than the Rogue one, but the Rogue one
by a long shot.
Isn't terrible, right? Like, you can weapon up on 2, you can Earther and Farseer on 3, and then you can Deadly Poison SI to counter possibly an Innervate play. So, I mean, there are a few options here. I'm surprised to see that Hoej did not Innervate Shade. I feel like very frequently when we see any kind of tournament play from Druid, the Innervate Shade play is a very common one. But it seems like he's banking on this Darnassus Aspirant to survive.
Yeah. The way it's going to go is probably just Shade on curve if the Aspirant dies, which he expects, into
and then follow up by
Dr. Boom, right?
Yeah,
is
quite
so
iterate,
insane. I mean, Rogue doesn't deal with Dr. Boom very well. The only issue is if your Dr. Boom gets sapped and you've used up all your ramp on it, suddenly it's a little bit less good.
Yeah. Alright, well the Shade does come down here. We see the Savage Roar. And actually if Orange did not have the sap, this would have been a little bit too much to deal with.
Yeah, it always is, right? Like Dr. Boom, as soon as it comes out as Rogue, is a big issue. Like in this matchup, I'd say Rogue is slightly favored overall, just because of the way they can regain tempo. If they can maintain themselves at a comfortable health total, however, right? Like they have the ability to push for board in a way that Druid can't handle. Vile Teacher allowing that kind of stuff, Shredders in some lists. We even see some very interesting lists play Tomb Pillager.
I think Hoej is thinking of not playing the Dr. Boom because his board is so weak to Blade Flurry. The Blade Flurry actually does 4, so the only card that Orange would lose had he have a Blade Flurry would be the 3/3 Farseer. That seems like a really bad situation.
Yeah, the Blood Mage is making you want to re-evaluate, I guess. You could go for just a Wrath for 3 hero power down Blood Mage.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario is that the Rogue ends up going for a Drake on 5. But if you trade the Shade and go for Dr. Boom, then suddenly Flurry is less bad, unless there's Backstab with the Flurry. And that's going to be an issue if it comes up.
Probably a lot of players watching and seeing both hands are like, why did he make that trade? The Shade is so valuable. It's exactly for the reason that, Hoej has no idea what Orange has in his hand, and frequently the Rogue will have the Blade Flurry answer. So he's playing around that. He's making a safe play to try to deal with it. Orange, of course, still has the Sap. He even has the Sap SI. He can clear here, and it's not really that likely that his SI will die to the last Boombot. I mean, the first Boombot can't do anything because you trade your Blood Mage with it. So what's the chance it kills the SI? It's 50%.
There's a 100% chance.
100% chance?
100%.
Okay, well, I'm closer to 75, but
all right.
Okay, let's see.
I'm betting on the 100%.
Moment of truth. Moment of truth.
And nope, he's just fine. Actually, Orange is in a pretty good spot. The only thing he wants to dodge here is an Innervate Dr. Boom as a return of the 7-drop. But right now, Hoej is looking at a very clunky turn. He can go for Aspirant and Wrath, but his turn 7
Aspirant and Wrath is really good. It actually prompts the weapon attack, and if it doesn't prompt the weapon attack, then he just plays the Dr. Boom next turn. I think this turn's actually fine. It's really next turn that is going to be the most awkward, because he might have to use like Force of Nature to clear if he's behind.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I really like from Hoej's perspective. The fact that the weapon's still up for Orange is what makes every single thing you do so poor. It doesn't matter what play you make, you know something is going to die. So you're banking on that second Dr. Boom to push the Rogue into a really bad spot.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this tempo-driven combo-style play, it acts very similar to Zoo, where you just want to end the game with something on the board, and that can be pretty hard to do because of the inconsistency in both decks.
Right, but I feel like this Lothep from Orange is possibly a saving grace. You look here at the hand he's got. He's looking at Eviscerate, Tinkers he can use next turn. A Prep would do a lot of work for him. Granted, it's not there yet, but just getting a single Prep would be completely insane.
A Prep would be completely insane. A Prep would allow him to weapon up, prep the oil, and play both Eviscerates. That is crazy, actually. That is an unbelievable amount of damage. Well,
and the thing is, the threat is Blood Flurry as well, right? Yeah. I think you have to play the Keeper. What else? Like, you have to play it, that's for sure. Where do you throw it?
I think you have to throw it into the Lothep, but the real question is, do you attack with your hero into Lothep? I think you do, actually, because you want to play Dr. Boom next turn, and you don't want Lothep to be able to attack into Dr. Boom. Yeah,
look at that!
The attack.
Orange has he's got a really good turn. He knows there's a Dr. Boom up there. He absolutely knows that. So just with that information, that sap, he knows is going to save him. Unless combo finishes him off. But I mean, at this stage, if you didn't see the second Innervate yet, you probably don't expect to see the other one.
That's a pretty horrible draw. The Eviscerate does secure Lothep's position on the board, and that is really powerful, as as you mentioned, comboing Sap with Tinker, and he can even do an Eviscerate in there if he wants.
Why not?
It's going to push for a ton of damage here.
So he's got, what, 8 from the Lothab, another 4 from the weapon, so 12 plus Eviscerate. So what he's looking at right now is if he picks up Flurry, I think he wins straight up, unless Lothab dies from the Boombots. But...
No, it doesn't matter, because he can just oil... Oh, yeah, they're all combo
Yeah, he wins
cards.
now, right? He just saps,
they're all
face.
combo cards.
Well, no, he starts with the sap, right? I mean, he's going to be 2 mana off is the issue.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And, this is kind of the, do I bet that that the Healbot, the Boombots won't kill this? The thing is, because you've got the Flurry anyway, there's almost no way you die
flurry
this
next
board.
turn. You flurry next
Yeah,
turn.
there's no way you die this turn. Unless Druid just God draws you.
He might not even eviscerate. There's not much point in eviscerating it, actually. Because...
you dodge Lothab, I guess. That's about it.
That's true, actually. You do play around Lothab by eviscerating, but if you eviscerate, your opponent will just make a heal play if he has one. If you don't eviscerate, your opponent might take a risk and think he can perhaps stay alive. It is a tough decision, and Orange is definitely reflecting on his options. He goes with the eviscerate. This plays around Lothab, but if Hoej had like an Ancient of Lore in his hand, it would be the first thing he would be playing.
Yeah, the thing is, if he plays Lothab, he still has to find a way to taunt up. I mean, Orange knows that, so it would be something like Lothab, Innervate, Druid of the Claw. But if, again, there was a second Innervate, he would have known a lot earlier. So I think Orange here feels like nothing can push him off this board. Off this win. It's pretty unlikely unless it's something like Ancient of Lore being played immediately.
Ancient of Lore would actually stabilize the game a little bit. But there really isn't much to be done here. I mean, the only thing you could really do is just continue on as if your opponent doesn't have lethal.
You hope that he doesn't have Flurry, because if you armor up, you're out of range of the weapon attack.
Yeah, but
that's enough.
The Flurry can do 4, and then the Redagger can finish off the opponent here. And that is exactly what's going to happen. Looks like the Rogue is going to take the first game. And again, Druid, not underperforming, but compared to the popularity of this class, it feels like it should be doing a little bit better. And Orange being the only player without one, maybe he's onto something here. Yeah. He is going to have to win, of course, with his Warrior and his Mage deck as well, being a best-of-5 Conquest format. And Mage has also been one of the classes that hasn't really seen too much play recently. In fact, I think today Orange is the only Mage. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, we saw, I think, one as well yesterday, but that was it. Like, it was a freeze mage from Tice, I think. But that was the only mage we saw. It's a very interesting metagame right now because you feel like there's no good pick. I feel like no matter what call you make, there's always an argument not to make that one. Like, it's just every single class I look at, and it's interesting that Warrior was brought by Orange because it's a class that a lot of people think is in such a dire position that you would never pick it. But the fact that he's playing maybe a control warrior, I know he's very familiar with that in a metagame where Druid's trying to burst you down and you've got Justicar. I feel like it might not be as bad.
Yeah, Warrior still struggles with Druid, but it's less so than before thanks to some of the cards it's recently acquired. Here we see Orange go with the Tempo Mage, not the Freeze Mage that we saw yesterday. I think he's been very, very favoring Tempo Mage. I know during times where it was really not a very good deck, he was bringing it to tournaments, and I think he actually won one of the tournaments where he was like the only player playing Mage. So I mean, it has been kind to Orange in the past, and he has held on to this deck. And I mean, in this position, it's been a good thing. Tempo Mage versus Druid definitely favors the Mage in most games where you don't get
and if the metagame is so Druid heavy, then that's a good call. And you know what's also pretty kind to Orange is going to be that Flamewaker. When the shade comes down.
Oh wow, Brand for
with
0.
the Drake or right now?
Well, yeah, developing the board is pretty nice, and the Brand, is it threatening? That's what I'm thinking. Like, Brand is nice to play on turn 3 just because if opponents see that it's in your deck, they know it's a ridiculously big threat. But if you get it from an unstable portal, you have to think okay, is probably playing Tempo Mage, but what is there in Tempo Mage that actually threatens this? And the truth is there isn't much. However, unfortunately for Hoej, the main counter to this shade is exactly what Orange has. It is the Flame Waker, Coin, Arcane Missiles. He's going to get, 7 missiles and 2 have to hit. So the odds are really, really on his side here. But in Hearthstone, you never know for sure.
Well, everything could miss, but it's unlikely.
Yeah, it's very unlikely.
And even if it did, what it would do, though, is enable the craziest swipe from Hoej, and then I think Orange could still recover from this with the follow-ups, although it would be a little bit more difficult. I'm liking this Innervate here for Hoej. It's going to really help him out next turn with the Dr. Boom. It's not as though Orange is sitting on too many ways to deal with it.
Yeah. Alright.
Oh, man.
Ooh, the counterspell might actually stop that, but no, he wants to play the Flame Waker. I think in general this is the right play. There are quite a few spells in the Druid list, but you don't care about countering too many of them. And in fact, Hoej actually picks up the second Innervate, which would have completely nullified the counterspell.
So, do you just charge Druid of the Claw, or do you Innervate Dr. Boom now and do something else with the Druid of the Claw later on?
Yeah, I think the Druid of the Claw play is actually a pretty good one, seeing how threatening the Flame Waker can be. If you Innervate out Dr. Boom, you're basically risking that Dr. Boom just gets fireballed, and you're at the mercy of the RNG gods once again. And those guys haven't been too kind so far to Hoej, so I don't know. I'm a fan of the Druid of the Claw play. It seems like it'll consistently work out pretty well, while the Dr. Boom might get countered.
Time waits for no one.
Yeah, I kind of like. I mean, the problem right now is that this Brand Bronzebeard is going to draw 2 cards for Orange, and for a deck that's usually card draw starved, that's a blessing, right? Like usually you're worried about playing Tempo Mage sometimes when you start top decking for your win very late game. In this case, though, Mature Drake draws 2 cards, and he's even able to trade away the Brand if he wants to keep the Drake safe, and he's got a billion damage in hand.
The Drake in this hand is so much more powerful than a Brand. The Brand has basically no more use. It's just a 2/3 minion, so of course the trade there is going to be made.
Yeah, in that deck, it's there's no other battle cries besides Dr. Boom, and that's also not in your hand at all. Might as well just save your Drake and get the extra damage coming in.
All right,
Do you just push everything, though? I have to ask, do you just... Because you're looking at 8 damage from the Fireball, from the Frostbolts. You're looking at an extra 7 from the Fireball. That's...
Yeah, you have 11 and 4. You have 15 this turn. That's the most damage you could do, I believe, 15. Well, actually, no, you could do more if you get a really good Unstable Portal, I believe.
What are we looking for? Leroy? No, not Leroy. That's
if you get an Arcane Golem, you can push for 1 extra damage.
I mean, if you Mana Worm, Unstable Portal, Counterspell, I think you're still in a, like, you're still pretty happy about the outcome. But, alright, he's playing around Savage Roar shenanigans, unless he's just pushing for lethal with spells. Nope, looks like these Savage Roar shenanigans.
Yeah, it's just a fairly safe play there. I do like the play. Just getting another minion on the board is important because the Azure Drake is one of your most valuable minions, and you want to reduce the odds that it's going to die to some boombots, which honestly is pretty likely here. I don't think this Azure Drake is likely to survive.
Well, I think we'll see an Innervate though with the Shredder after using Savage Roar, just to guarantee that this doesn't go too poorly. A little unfortunate there for
Hoej. That's totally fine. You just have to take 2 face damage, and that's okay to take. I think the Boombot is worth 2 mana of tempo, and you're really just battling the tempo right now.
So you don't want to Innervate Shredder. Instead,
you do want to Innervate Shredder.
I mean, you use the 2 health.
You use the 2 attack that your hero gained from Savage Roar to finish the Mana Worm. You're basically just taking 2 extra damage to have a Boombot on the board, but you're really just taking 1 extra damage because probably Orange would just ping your face. So 1 extra damage for a tempo push,
a 1/1
is worth it. Yeah. Well, Orange has to deal with the Boombot. It's too threatening to play a minion into a Boombot most of the time.
That's pretty funny, but yeah.
He doesn't actually have a good play here. Like if he has to ping, he has to like Frostbolt and Unstable, I guess.
Yeah, it looks to me like the only play you'd make in a spot like this. Like depending on what comes out of the Shredder, this might also make your plan change. I looks pretty mild.
I'm actually a bit surprised that he chose not to ping the Boombot before playing the Mana Worm.
Yeah, I think he wants to force Hoej, because in this case, what I suspect Orange will do is Frostbolt the 3/2 and just unstable. Because if he pings now, that was a clear misplay, right? That was a misplay. It must have been.
Oh, no punish though.
Yeah, no punish, but I have to wonder what Orange was anticipating at the end of that sequence. However, Hoej does pick up an answer to that Mana Worm. He's going to be able to play his Harrison Jones as well. But Orange still has the portal.
Yeah, he's got the portal, but he might be saving that for the Antonius play. He might also just be playing Antonius, but I think that's unnecessarily risky at this stage. I mean, Hoej only does have one card in his hand, but there's a lot of cards that are capable of doing that small bit of damage.
Okay, never mind the Archmage.
Yeah, I like the Fireball counterspell here. You want to get out the Archmage next turn, but you never want to get out the Archmage without producing any Fireballs. So this kind of helps you set up for next turn. Oh, the counterspell plays very well into that Force of Nature. Hoej basically has no play, so he's going to have to play this this big game Hunter, and it's going to have no backup, as Force of Nature basically is not going to work.
Yeah, the thing is, right now he's thinking, if I play BGH and Dr. Boom's in the hand, then I get punished, but ultimately can I afford not doing it? Maybe it's something clunky. If it's Mirror Entity, then I can play Force to clear it up, keep my 4/2, since I've seen 2 Frostbolts, 2 Fireballs.
That's exactly what he's thinking. Like, he knows that if he plays the big game Hunter, it's most likely Mirror Entity. You'll most likely have to clear it, but he's probably thinking, if I'm making that play, should I do this turn or should I wait one more turn? Because if it is Mirror Entity and he waits one more turn, he's going to have much more clear value out of that Force of Nature. So I think waiting seems a little bit more attractive, but he is in a pretty bad spot, and sometimes when you're in a bad spot, you do make some pretty risky plays.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to hope that everything lines up. He's going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah, there is no Mirror Entity on the battlefield yet, but there is going to be, and that is going to mess with Hoej's battle plan. Oh hey. My! You called that one.
A long time ago, but hello. No, ouch, ouch.
Yeah, he has to try this. It's not going to work, and it's going to be led with a concede. I mean, if you're losing 6 mana to a secret that was dropped on a previous turn, you are not able to win the game as a druid. This is game over. As good as it is to play out all the games and tournaments just in that 1% chance, this is not one of those games.
There is no 1% chance unless Orange literally steps over his Ethernet cable and disconnects it. It's not happening. By the way, did you see a little parrot pecking away at Hoej's face? Like during the game, there was like a little bird pecking away at his face.
Cheer up. It's okay. Yeah. You just got counterspelled in your Force Nation. Don't worry, you'll get it next time.
Don't worry, Pepe is going to carry you.
Yeah. All right, well, Orange is on Warrior. You mentioned how Warrior doesn't seem like a very good tournament class right now. You know, your statements are about right. Looks like this might be a Group Patron Warrior, however. But what I did want to mention is out of the 6 players that we have in our tournament today, 4 of them have actually brought Warrior. So I think next to Druid, it is the most popular class in this part of the bracket.
Yeah. It looks like Patron from Orange, though, not the control type. I see him play a ton of Control Warrior usually, but just based on the fact that there's a Corsair lying around, I feel like he opted for something a little bit different this time. Yeah. I wonder if we're going to see the Kranich twist on it with at least Starseeker, since it's a deck that tends to dig for all the cards and often is stuck with a lot of dead ones.
Well, Piloted Shredder is also quite indicative of the Patron Warrior, but we'll have to see. Hoej definitely has a very nice hand here. He is going to make the turn 1 Shade play. It seems like this is pretty standard. He hadn't made it in his opening game, as he was just trying to push out that Dr. Boom on the board as fast as possible.
Yeah, also the double Shredder is something that I don't want to say is unusual, because nowadays I guess anything goes, but we've seen a lot of Kor'kron Elite being added to the arsenal of Patron, because often they lack that little bit of extra burst, and where Shredder lets the opponent react, you can get a lot more work done with the Kor'kron. When you're looking for instant damage, you know, you go Kor'kron with Inner Rage, works pretty well with the Battle Rage as well, when you just, in a jiffy, you need an extra card draw.
Yeah.
Kind of liking this.
All right, well, there is no huge power play from Orange to respond to this Druid of the Claw. But Hoej might bring it out in charge, maybe.
I mean, if he brings it out in charge, what I think he might consider is just play the Shade. Because that way he can set up the crazy combo that he already has on the coin.
Oh, I see.
So you play Shade, you let them sit there. If it's Control Warrior, though,
I like
Brawl
that
is a risk.
Hadn't considered that, but yeah, you've definitely swayed me. This Armorsmith is not accomplishing anything right now. It's not a threat. The Warrior's HP doesn't matter all that much in a lot of these cases if you're going to have 2 Shades on the board. But he does go with a Shade attack and taunt Druid of the Claw. It does get a little bit punished by Execute, but Execute is punishing something regardless of the play that you make.
Yeah, and right now there is no Execute, so Orange will have to choose between Deathbite and Corsair or Shredder. I feel like overall the Shredder here does a bit more work, but you really want to get that weapon out as soon as possible, especially if you pick up a Patron after the Deathbite has been used up.
Well, the tempo on the Shredder play and this play are about the same.
Yeah, but the potential gain, because right now what this attack guarantees is that you clear the board next turn. Even if your 3/3 dies to the Shade, then the AoE will finish it off. And if the 4/2 straight it away, then you can take an extra 5 from the Shade and still clear the board. So
yeah.
the gain from this is really good no matter how you look at it.
This seems quite good. It looks like Hoej is just going to push for some damage. He's going to kill the 3/3 with Savage Roar, and also doing 4 extra damage to Orange's face here from his minions being buffed.
Yeah, and this is exactly the nightmare scenario for Orange. He was thinking, maybe I can dodge Wrath. Maybe I'll be fine if that happens. You know, he did have to unstealth the Shade to kill the Armorsmith. So Wrath Hero Power would have probably done a good job of it instead of playing Druid of the Claw.
Well, he can clear here. He will be playing the Frothing. He'll be playing the Fiery War Axe instead of attacking.
And then
he'll be Inner-Raging the Bear. Now, this is the only play that's available right now.
I mean, it does buff your Frothing a lot. And you've just seen a Savage Roar being used as a clear on your 3/3, which means there's no Wrath. So...
Well, you know that BGH is an option. And a card might be drawn here. Looks like Swipe, but I wonder if Hoej will actually play the Swipe. I think he can actually afford to take some damage here, and really what he needs to do is be as aggressive as possible.
I mean, he can win if you just play Shade, Hero Power, Attack Face, and just go Swipe, Savage Roar next turn, right? I think it's close enough. Yeah, looks like lethal to me on the following turn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Getting 5, 6, 7... Yeah, he's getting a total of 13 damage. I think that's exact lethal.
No, I think you're right. I think that is the play to make. But he's playing it a little bit safe, and you can't fault this either. There are a lot of whirlwind effects. There are a lot of small triggers. And
oh no, he would have been a one-off. Sorry, I lied.
Was he?
But yeah, he was one-off. But still, I feel like the cautious play, since you have the full combo anyway, is pretty much top tier anyway.
One off. Yeah, you're right. Because he couldn't Hero Power with the Savage Roar Swipe. Okay, all right. Well, pretty cautious play. Still not okay. That's just it.
Never mind. Cautious play.
Wow.
And this is what we were talking about earlier, right? Like, why do people bring Druid? Well, as it turns out, it does Druid things at least once in a Conquest format. And it did.
It's true. It did do very, very Druid things in this case, but it did also rack up a loss, I believe, before it had done so. So, you know, a little bit of 2 losses actually. We haven't seen the Warlock or the Paladin from Hoej.
So yeah, we haven't seen anything from him yet. I mean, I'm curious to know if the Paladin is more of a secret pally, something of a mid-range one. But we've also seen Life Coach bring Reno Paladin in the past. I'm not sure if that's something he'll do again after the, I guess, mitigated success of the deck, but it's an archetype that's probably going to get refined as time passes. There is a Kor'kron in Orange's deck.
It does look like it's going to be a secret Paladin. The Lotheb usually means that there's no Divine Favor or just one Divine Favor in the Paladin deck, which tends to favor a more mid-range approach to the deck. and I think a mid-range approach to the Paladin deck puts it at a fairly big disadvantage against the Grim Patron of Orange.
Yeah, do you think that's why? I have to assume that's the reason why Orange brought Tempo Mage and the Warrior, because they both pack a lot of 1 damage abilities like Arcane Missiles, Flame Waker, and also in the AoE side from the Patron. I feel like that might justify the deck choice.
All right, well, the Armor Smith going on the board early. I like the play. It might trap your opponent into playing a more aggressive minion, and any aggressive minion on turn 2 is going to fall to the Fiery War Axe follow-up.
Even Minibot, who would have thought? I mean, there's many cases, as you said, where you trap him because he assumes that you're desperate to get something on the board, and thus you don't have the War Axe. There's the exact opposite in this case.
He's got the War Axe. He's going to have an excellent play next turn. Next turn he's going to be able to play the Dread Corsair for 1 mana and either Slam or the Ghoul.
Yeah.
Whatever he needs here.
I mean, the Muster for Battle will be a bit annoying because he has to clean up everything.
Yeah, it will be pretty annoying, but if you see a Muster, it's still pretty tricky to play around it, because if you play the Ghoul and the Corsair, you actually get wiped by Consecrate. But you might be okay with that, because it'll use up his whole turn, and the Paladin will be left with nothing at the end of the turn besides a Light's Justice as a weapon. So
yeah, I mean, would you slam a 1/1, right? Because that's the question with Kings coming up. Do you go for Dread Corsair Slam to kill everything? Or do you just count on the Ghoul? Because if there is something like a Blessing of Kings, then he gets a 5/5, trades all the 1/1s and the Light's Justice away. I mean, they die anyway, so you might just try to use those, unless you expend resources on those 1/1s.
Yeah, I think I like the Ghoul, but I think it's probably not worth playing the Dread Corsair right now. Even though it's really nice to play a Dread Corsair whenever you can. I think the Ghoul just matches up much better by itself. You're not using
if you
your
play
weapon
Corsair,
anyway.
playing into Consec anymore. I mean, on top of it, that is.
Right.
Yeah, the weapon also gives you the benefit, if there is a Blessing of Kings, keeping it means that you're going to be able to play and kill the minion that gets buffed after the AoE comes up. So definitely a bit of a... it's security at this point. You don't want to let the Paladin just flood the board with something that can just live as a warrior. Usually you see it when you play Control Warrior. Paladin gets 1 minion to stick, and then the snowball starts. If you don't have the Brawl on point or an Execute, you're out of it. So having the War Axe as insurance here is definitely something he needs.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good setup play by Orange. It basically deals with the board and every 4-drop that a Paladin could have. And it doesn't invest the Dread Corsair, so it's a low investment, full coverage play. We're basically selling health insurance right now. He's covered.
I mean, I'm liking this. This Patron deck, we know that Patron was initially considered one of the best counters to Secret Pally, although as time passed, I feel like that also changed quite a bit. People started realizing that the deck wasn't necessarily as favored as we thought, but just based on this, the new Patron, the one that doesn't run full-on combo, but just tries to do tempo plays, also works super well. Yeah, this is beautiful.
No, I don't like the Dread Corsair. I like the attack, Death Spite, and then free Dread Corsair a lot better.
Sure, why not? I mean, you don't get to armor up if you make that play, though, right?
I don't think you need to. You just have to go for the highest tempo play, and this is the highest tempo play. And we see Orange making it once again. Very, very good play by Orange. All throughout, actually. He's really taking,
every single turn.
All the risks.
Like this. Coghammer for Hoej with the Knife Juggler. So that's going to give him the ability to give that Juggler 2 hits, which forces a weapon hit from your opponent and maybe even that Corsair out. In this case, though, we know there's a slam, but if there weren't, then that would be a bit annoying for Orange to invest all these resources for something like a 2-drop.
Well, it's not just slam. You just have to realize that this deck has a lot of ping effects, so that play has perhaps a little bit more risk attached to it than it might seem. I wouldn't be opposed to just Juggler Guy Avenge, because if you do draw into a Mysterious Challenger, he's going to pull a second Avenge immediately. So, I don't know. I feel like you're behind right now against a bad matchup, so you want to make like the higher risk play.
He's gonna consecrate and set up the Avenge for the following turn with the Juggler dude that he can make happen. Might pick up something even better later on. It's interesting. I mean, maybe he's also bluffing a Repentance from Orange, assuming the Patron wanted to come out at some point.
Well, Orange basically has no play, but he does pick up a Grim Patron, and with a little bit of help, that's going to be a really big deal, especially now that we've seen Consecrate played. Now, Consecrate's been a card that in the more aggressive Secret Paladin decks has been like a one-of, but in the more mid-range Secret Paladin decks, I'd imagine two-of would be fairly common. Do you know anything about that?
I mean, I think it's a card that, like we saw yesterday, Cypher, right, playing the one of. I think we're not going to see much more than one in those types of decks. So yeah, it makes quite a bit of sense. I mean, against Patron as well, Hoej just used it up as early as possible since he didn't want to deal with the ramifications of Patrons coming out and then being stuck with Consec. But it's also bluffing the Repentance. I really love Hoej's secret play there. I mean, it might create a good setup, but it's also doing more than just that. It's forcing Orange to wonder about what he wants to do.
I still like the Juggler play here. Just Juggler, Creeper, Guy seems to be pretty strong.
I kind of like the Juggler Coghammer more now, but I guess.
Yeah,
now that the Corsair's out,
it's so vulnerable to just any Whirlwind or any ping effect.
Yeah.
Whereas the Juggler Creeper Guy is almost certainly going to trigger the Avenge, which
and the Death Rattle being
which might prompt an Execute, which is very good.
Yeah, which means Tyrion might stick around. Like Orange, I mean, the Patron is known for not being able to go through taunts very well. Now that Warsong's gone, I mean, there's no way you're gonna pop through a Belcher super easily unless you've got a perfect setup.
Yeah.
And Tyrion's even more annoying.
Okay.
Well, never mind.
That is pretty good here, but
he tried. We can't say he didn't try.
I think Avenge can trigger on the 1/1 because the Haunted Creeper dies before the Death Rattle of the weapon. So if Avenge triggers on the 1/1, I think that is the ideal situation.
Do not. I was gonna say I thought Orange was going to not let the Juggler live, even with the free pings that it's giving away. Man, these pings.
Okay, well that's the best case. Let's see if the Juggles agree here. That first juggle is very good. Second, nope. That was a bad juggle.
Well, it was alright for Hoej, just not for Orange.
Yep.
But it did buff the 1/1, so everything goes down. Now you're stuck with a board that you can't really deal with. But with the Coghammer, with Coghammer, he's able to take out 2 of them if he wants. Noble Sack will unfortunately not do much.
No, you can't play this card right now. No, things are looking really bad for Hoej right now. The Grim Patients have hit the board. There's almost no answer in this deck, and the Warrior's at 25, so trying to rush him down is also not going to work here.
Yeah, I feel like Hoej knew what he was getting into with this matchup in the first place, right? Like, as soon as he knew that it was going to be Patron, he knows it's a bad matchup. I wonder if he's trying to queue up maybe the worst matchups first, get them out of the way.
Well,
he's got a Warlock afterwards.
He only gets one out of the way, as Orange is on match point here.
Yeah. No, but I mean, just try to win with the worst ones first so you save time, I guess. Time is money, friend. Oh, goodness. So, I guess you try to kill Patrons and hope that Tyrion saves you? That's about all I can see.
Yeah, that is absolutely the only play, and you're at the mercy to a lot of cards right now. And man, Dr. Boom is a pretty good answer to Tyrion, actually.
Yeah, there's no way Hoej is running equality in a deck like this. Challenger comes out.
Challenger, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, it does probably on some level help, but
yeah, what I'm thinking is you can maybe, if you play Tyrion, would it die every time? I think it might.
Yeah, it dies every time, because even if you attack the Boombot prior to that, he attacks with the Boombot, then Dr. Boom, and then he attacks face with Patron, and you're back to square one.
What? I know some of these more slower Paladin decks cut back on some secrets. What if he's only running one Get Down, and Mysterious Challenger comes in and has Redemption up?
And then you're setting up for...
And then you set up for Tyrion to be redeemed. You'll be at 1 HP if you do that play, by the way.
Yeah, if everything lines up, you're going to be pretty low on health. But still, that's the... Wow, well...
Yeah, that would not have worked out.
Never mind. Oh, change of plans, guys. We're going home.
Okay,
Pack your things.
That's lethal. Oh, whoa.
Slam.
That might fail the lethal. I think you have to slam. Trade Dr. Boom.
Yeah. I thought he was throwing away the 100% lethal and hoping the boombots would do some work.
I think if he attacked with a boombot and the boombot attacked, if boombot landed on the Tyrion for 1 damage, he would have missed lethal there.
Yeah, it could have backfired if the boombot didn't hit hard enough on Tyrion.
Oh, maybe not. He probably could have slammed afterwards. No, I think the lethal was basically guaranteed, actually. All right, well, Hoej doesn't go through. It is Orange that goes through and takes our first match in the StarLadder I-League today. Next up, we will have Nyria face off against Stan Sifka.
Yeah,
Orange has
pretty excited to
advanced
see
the
that.
second round against Jab, and the winner of that will advance against Life Coach. So you're banking on the Sifka. You want to see the Sifka Life Coach match later on?
I'm just happy to see Sifka play Hunter. Because I see him all the time play super defensive decks. We're talking Control Warrior. He loves the control play style, but I think he's starting to diversify his play style, basically. You know, when you're starting to play tournaments, it stops being about the one deck you master and more about... I mean, we saw that a long time ago happen, where people had to start playing all the classes, and Sifka being more of a, I guess, newer player, although he spends a ridiculous amount of time daily. Like, we're talking 10 to 12 hours playing the game every day just to get up to speed. He still has a lot of time to catch up on with all the other pros, and I want to see him play Hunter. I want to see the decks that he brought. He tends to bring a very unique twist to everything, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I for one hope that he doesn't diversify and go towards aggressive decks. I'm kind of hoping that the creativity has pushed perhaps some Control Hunter to reach the tournament.
Reno Hunter, I've heard things. I heard rumors.
I had
of Reno Hunter hitting Legend.
But yeah, some people have said that they had pretty good results with it. We'll have to see when we come back. Though we'll be gone for a few minutes, but stick around. We have some great matches yet to be played.